So before we get to the real world stuff, let's talk about this species known as the Skiddlywinks. Here you can see there are two main versions of one species. You have the light Skiddlywink on the left, and you have the green Skiddlywink on the right. They are two versions of the same species, differing only in their color. So all Skiddlywinks are herbivores. In other words, they eat plants. These are specialized consumers in that they only eat one type of leaf from one type of tree. Here we are in the Skiddlywink's natural habitat, the forest and local soccer complex. Now, I'm trying to keep from disturbing him. You can see how very skittish he is, constantly moving around, checking this way and that, looking for predators. He must be very, very careful or he'll end up a meal for some scary predator. Here we have the green Skiddlywink. Can you spot him? Ah, there he is moving now. As you can see, the green allows him to camouflage better in his surroundings, so he remains more hidden. It's an obvious advantage. That's an adaptation, a natural adaptation that lets him survive. As you can see, he's already much less skittish than the light Skiddlywink because he has less to worry about since he can blend in. He even casually eats his plants. Very, very cool. Now we get to the reason for the camouflage. The predator. He's targeting the light Skiddlywink. Watch as this magnificent beast takes him down. With natural selection, survival is the key. You must be able to exist, obtain resources, and most importantly, reproduce. One might think that being big and strong would be the most important advantage you could have in nature. However, that's not true. As humans, we think fitness means being in good shape, being someone who's big and strong, someone who can run forever, someone who works out a lot. That's not what it means in the animal kingdom. Fitness is your ability to reproduce. And so the person who survives and reproduces the most is, in natural selection terms, the winner. For the males of a species, more important than anything is to have luck with the ladies.
Lieutenant. Oh my God! I so love your hat! Oh my goodness! Oh, wow!
Okay, so at the moment, let's say that the population is currently at a ratio of about 50 to 50. For every 50 light Skiddlywinks, there are 50 green Skiddlywinks. How will this ratio change over time? Keep in mind, it's much easier to see the light Skiddlywink in the green foliage, and it's much harder to see in the green Skiddlywink. Also, the green Skiddlywink is more appealing to the females of its species because of its unique hat. So, what do you think is going to happen to the population over time as those who can't survive die and those who do survive reproduce and have more offspring? As I'm sure you've already guessed, the light Skiddlywinks are going to find it hard to survive because they're going to be constantly hunted down by the predator and found because they don't blend in as well. They're not camouflaged. Now, since they can't survive, it's also going to be hard for them to reproduce and pass their genes or their traits, the light skin, over to their offspring. So therefore, there are going to be more and more green offspring because the green Skiddlywinks are surviving and passing on their traits to their offspring. And as you can see, the ratio slowly over time changes from 50-50 to 40 to 60 to 20 to 80 to 10 to 90 in favor of the green Skiddlywink. So let's sum it all up right here at the very end. Make everything really clear for you. So we got this lady over here, Mother Nature. She's only going to let those who can survive in their habitat reproduce and make new offspring. So over time, she's going to select for those who are best adapted to that area. And in our case here, we have the camel. In our Skiddlywink example, the green Skiddlywink had a much easier time surviving and escaping the predator because of its camouflage. It also attracted more females and therefore reproduced the most. So, the green Skiddlywink was the fittest because it survived and reproduced. The light Skiddlywink over time would slowly be moved out of the gene pool because it was not having enough offspring to keep its genes in the gene pool. Earlier I mentioned there was going to be a real-world example, and the best one I can think of is the Peppered Moth of England. Here we can see the different colors of the peppered moth. The lightly colored ones in the top left-hand corner, and they move all the way down to the darker colored ones in the bottom right-hand corner. Let's pretend this is England pre-Industrial Revolution. And as you can see, they have these pretty white trees, and on these white trees live some special types of moths. In fact, it's our peppered moth. Like we said, there are some main colors. There are the lighter colored moths and there are the darker colored moths. Here you can see a predator, an owl, zooming in on the moths on the tree here. Which color do you think would be the easiest one to see on that tree? These gray ones or the darker colored moth? When the Industrial Revolution hit England, the once pristine, beautiful white birch trees slowly began to change because tons of dark smog was released from all these factories, and it literally started to change the color of the trees. The changing of the color of the trees started to impact the color of the moths. With the color change of the trees, all of a sudden the darker moths had an easier time blending in, and as a result, the white moths were now getting picked off by the owls. And so since the predator was going after the white moths, the darker moths were able to survive and reproduce. Therefore, they had a higher part of the population at that time. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, the peppered moths have constantly changed from one color to the next. And in fact, right now, the trees are going back to the white, so the lighter species of peppered moth is actually starting to make a comeback. And this is natural selection, or survival of the fittest. The species that is best able to adapt and survive its own environment is going to be able to reproduce and pass its genes on to the next generation. Survival of the fittest.